Hey gang! Using the promo code MTGMUDSTA, all caps, will get you 10% off any order over $10 at Flipside Gaming. It'll also get you 10% off any orders of singles at Multizone. And it'll get you 10% off most products at Original Magic Art, with the exceptions of some paintings. If these fine sites don't have what you're looking for, you can also consider using my affiliate link when ordering from TCG Player. And if you'd like to join the generic Goblin Gang to support this channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Alrighty, today is another Multizone matchup, and we have new player Chris bringing the new Niv-Mizzet Reborn. He's capped a Windswept Heath, a Hinterland Harbor, a Vindicate, a Snow-Covered Swamp, Bedevil, Skyshroud Claim, and Drowned Catacomb. I am rocking the Trostani deck, keeping a Forest, a Cultivate, a Scavenger Grounds, a Scattered Groves, and a Swords to Plowshares. New to the channel is Max playing his Olivia deck, keeping a City of Brass, a Foreboding Ruins, 3 Mountains, an Outpost Siege, and Chandra Fire Artisan. Joel is back playing Nicol Bolas, and he keeps a Talisman of Creativity, a Mountain, a Misty Rainforest, a Fetid Pools, a Smoldering Marsh, an Exotic Orchard, and a Limtol's Vault. Max wins the die roll and starts us off. Max plays a Foreboding Ruins and reveals a Mountain. I play a tap Scattered Groves, passing. Joel plays a tap Smoldering Marsh. Chris plays a Bloodstained Mire, cracking it and taking 1 for a tap Sacred Foundry. Max plays a Mountain. I play a Scavenger Grounds. Joel plays his Misty Rainforest, taking 1 to find a basic island. He casts his Talisman of Creativity before passing. Chris plays a Snow-Covered Swamp and passes. Max plays a Mountain. I play a Forest and cast Cultivate to find some basics for the field and for my hand. Joel plays a tap Fetid Pools and passes. Chris plays an untapped Drowned Catacombs. Max plays a Mountain and pays 4 for Outpost Siege. He names Khans and passes. I play a Forest and cast Fauna Shaman. At the end of my turn, Joel uses his Vault and goes pretty deep into his library. He uses the ability 6 times, losing 6 life, before settling on the ones he wants on top. Joel plays an Exotic Orchard for turn and casts Soul Ring. He then resolves a Windfall, and Chris responds. Chris uses the Bedevil to take out the Soul Ring before losing it, and we then all discard our hand and draw 6. Joel then plays an Izzet Signet after drawing his cards, and he passes. Chris plays a Sulphur Falls and casts Hostage Taker. It comes in and steals Joel's Izzet Signet, which happens a bit too fast, as Joel responds to the ETB by tapping the Signet to float some mana. Before transitioning phases, Joel then pays for an unoverloaded Cyclonic Rift, bouncing the Hostage Taker back to Chris's hand. Max exiles a Custody Lich to his Siege trigger, and draws for turn. He plays a Mountain for turn, but lacking the extra black, preemptively exiles the Lich as he can't cast it. Max then pays 3 for By Force, where X is 2, to take out Joel's Mana Rocks. I draw and play a Plains, tapping out for my baby, the Ulvenwald Hydra. I grab a Rogue's Passage, which is like my combo piece, and pass. Joel draws and plays a Sulphurous Springs. He casts a Felwar Stone, followed by Jace the Mind Sculptor. Joel then activates Jace's 0 ability, getting a free Brainstorm. Chris plays a Snow-Covered Forest and pays 3 for Chromatic Lantern. He then taps the rest of his mana for a Cultivate, going to find some basics before passing. Max exiles Mind Stone to the Khans trigger, and he plays his second Black Source. He casts the Mind Stone and passes. I play a Forest, not that you can tell sadly, and cast my Blade of Selves. I slap that bad boy onto the Hydra, and you just know I'm heading to combat. Unfortunately though, before I can declare my attackers, Max rains on my parade with Price of Fame, killing the Hydra and gaining to Surveil 2. While Max is looking, I put out a Sakura Tribe Elder, and Max decides to keep both on top. Moving to combat, the Fauna Shaman hits Jace for 2. Joel plays his own Bloodstained Mire, taking 1 to find a basic swamp. He activates Jace to Brainstorm again, and then casts a Lotus Petal. He casts Preordain, scrying 2 and bottoming them, then drawing a card. We then see a Fabricate hitting the stack, and Joel goes to find an artifact. In the meantime, I sacrifice my Elder to find a basic, and Joel reveals the on-theme Bolas' Citadel before passing. Chris plays a Clifftop Retreat and recasts the Hostage Seeker. He goes for another one of Joel's mana rocks, which Joel taps before it gets stolen. Chris then drops Dax's Duplicant and has it come in as a copy of Hostage Taker. This time he steals the better target, my Blade of Cells. Chris announces he's moving to combat, and before leaving the phase with his floating mana, Joel taps some more to cast a Fire Covenant, paying 5 life into the spell to deal 3 to the original Hostage Taker and 2 to my Fauna Shaman. Chris then announces the Duplicant is going at Jace to take him out. Max exiles a Swamp to the Siege and plays it for his land for turn. Siphon Mine then costs all of his opponents a card and draws Max 3. Max then plays a Wayfarer's Bauble before passing to me. I play a Canopy Vista for my land drop and pay 5 for Mirari's Wake. I still have enough lands for Zendikar Resurgent, and I feel like we've been down this path before. I have nothing else to play at this point with no hand, so I pass to Joel. Joel taps a lot of black mana for his Citadel in his main phase, playing a tapped Watery Grave. He looks at his top card, which is either a decent response or a land, but either way, he doesn't want to play it, and passes. Chris plays a Pillar of Payrunes, and casts my Blade of Selves. We then see Niv-Mizzet Reborn, and we see a lot of gold cards. The only 2 gold cards that share color cost are Merciless Eviction and Anguished Unmaking, and Chris gets to keep a remarkably good 6 from the Niv trigger. He bottoms the rest, and moves to combat. Joel then takes 2 from the Dax's Duplicant Hostage Taker, and with nothing else, Chris then discards down to 7, passing, while Max cracks his Bauble to find a basic. Max exiles Angrith's Rampage and plays a Mountain for turn. He then brings out his commander, and passes, forgetting to cast the Rampage and being sad as he says goodbye to it. I tap 2 lands for 6 mana, casting Trostani in my main phase, and I draw from the Resurgent trigger. I then tap more lands for a Regal Force, drawing as I cast it, and then gaining 6 life from Trostani and drawing 2 cards as it enters. The Vito-Ghazi Guildmage then hits the stack, drawing me another card and gaining me 3 life as it enters. I then cast Angel of Finality, which draws me a card, gains me 5 life, and then exiles Joel's Yard. We then see a Karmic Guide coming in, drawing, and gaining me 3 as it enters, and it then brings back my Hydra. I layer my triggers to find a land first, and then gain life, and I go and find a Reliquary Tower, and then gain 13 from the Hydra entering, with Trostani seeing it. We then see an Enlightened Tutor in my main phase to find me a Greater Good, and I pass to Joel. Joel looks at some yards in his main phase, and then pays 6 life to cast Command the Dreadhorde off the top of his library. He decides to only bring back my Sakura Tribe Elder, losing another 2. We then see Joel rip Dark Ritual off the top of his library, losing 1 life for 3 black mana, which is very Phyrexian of him. He then plays a Reflecting Pool off the top, and looks at the top card. He then sacrifices my Sakura Tribe Elder to go and find a basic, and with the search trigger on the stack, casts Evacuation off the top, losing 5 more life. He bounces all the creatures back to their owner's hands, and finds a basic swamp. Joel then looks at the top card, and decides to pay mana for once for a spell, casting Nicol Bolas the Ravager. He enters, and we all discard a card. Notably, I pitch a Riftstone Portal, which now lets all of my lands tap for green or white. Using most of his lands and the floating black mana for the ritual, Joel then transformed his Nikki B into Nicol Bolas the Arisen. He upticks the Walker by 2, putting it to 9 loyalty counters as he draws 2 cards, and passes. Chris plays an untapped Godless Shrine, taking 2 to have it come in untapped. He then pays enough for Niv-Mizzet again, and he reveals another chunk of cards, only getting 4, which still isn't bad. Chris then casts a Dak Faden, and downtakes the Walker to steal a Citadel from Joel. He looks at his top card, and plays it for 2 life, casting a Baleful Strix. It enters, and draws him a card. Chris then looks at the top card again, and passes. At the end of turn, Max draws by sacrificing his Mind Stone, and Chris discards down to 7. Max exiles an Inferno Titan to his siege, and draws. He plays a tapped Rakdos Guildgate, and after checking his yard for Delirium, casts Emrakul the Promised End. He announces he'll take Chris's next turn, and Max then passes. I untap, and the work begins. I recast Trostani, forgetting to draw because I'm great. I then cast the Hydra once more, going to find a land. I grab Bountiful Promenade, and gain 14 life. Greater Good then says hello, and I then drop a Regal Force. I realize at this point that I should have drawn some cards, but oh well, and draw my 3 cards and gain 6 life as it enters. I send the Hydra to an early grave with Greater Good, drawing 14 and discarding 3. I then sacrifice the Force for 6 more cards and discard 3 again. I play a Forest and recast the Karmic Guide, drawing and bringing the Hydra back and gaining 3 life. I go and find a land again and gain 15 more. The Hydra goes for Greater Good again, drawing me 15 cards this time and then discarding 3. I then drop everyone's favorite, or at least one of my favorites, Phyrexian Processor. I dump 100 life into it as it enters, and I then activate the processor, making a token and gaining 101 life like the Dalmatians, and still having enough floating mana from all of my lands, tap Trostani to activate her and populate, gaining another 101 life from the token that enters. At this point, Max wonders if he should have taken my turn. I still have enough floating mana for a Soul Ring, which I then tap for an Altar of Dementia. Sadly, my plan of milling people out is dashed by Dovin's Veto from Chris, and I pass to Joel. Joel draws and upticks Nicol Bolas, drawing 2 more cards. He then drops Ugin the Ineffable, before casting Deliver Unto Evil. As he controls a Bolas Planeswalker, Joel gets to return a bunch of cards to his hand, rather than let an opponent pick some. He then recasts the Petal, and Evacuation once more. Joel then upticks Ugin, basically manifesting. He then looks at the yards again, and he casts Dark Ritual, and pays the rest of Command the Dreadhorde. He takes 8 to bring back my Terastodon, and hits my mana doublers and processor, which is definitely the right move. Max takes Chris's first turn, and plays a Blood Crypt, taking 2. He looks at the top card because of the Citadel, and upticks Dak, drawing 2 and discarding 2, one of which is Niv-Mizzet. Max then uses Anguished Unmaking to exile Nicol Bolas, and Chris loses 3 life. Max then plays Pernicious Deed off the top of Chris's library, costing Chris another 3 life. Max then activates the enchantment, putting 5 mana into the Deed's X to basically nuke the board. Max then passes, and Chris starts his extra turn. Chris draws for turn and loses 2 to the Hollowed Fountain, coming in untapped. He recasts the Baleful Strix, drawing as it enters, and then looks at the top card. He pays 5 life for Mirari's Wake off the top, doubling his mana, and we then see a Rhythm of the Wild. And he brings up Bruce Tarl. He gives a legendary creature double strike and lifelink as it enters, and has the Wilds give him haste. It's at this point Chris realizes he should have cast his Strix after the Wild to double up on the lifelink and double strike, but them's the breaks. He upticks Dak again, drawing 2 and discarding 2. And Chris then heads to combat, hitting Max for 3 twice for stealing his turn, and gains 6 life. Chris then passes. Max draws and plays a Mountain. He casts Emrakul, but Chris uses Void Slime to counter the on-cast ability. He does this because he's concerned that Max will steal my turn and win the game, and Max drops a Gonti to try and steal my win condition. I let him look at the top 4, and Max has the poker face of stone, not letting me know what he took. He then passes. I draw for turn and cast Eternal Witness. It comes in, and I bring back my Enlightened Tutor from my hand. I then cast it and put the Reservoir on top of my library, and then cast Return to Dust, targeting Chris's Citadel and Mirari's Wake. I then drop an Elvish Visionary to draw 1 card, and then resolve the Reservoir. With my life total high enough, I'm easily able to take out the table with life to spare. Game review time. So, Trostani did what she does, gained me a bunch of life, and I even got to use Phyrexian Processor and populate this game, so that was a lot of fun. I think at this point though, unfortunately for me, most stores that I play at know to not leave me with any kind of mana doublers in my Trostani deck. I think everyone did a pretty good job in this game, with unfortunately for Joel getting a lot of the hate early on. He ramped ahead with a bunch of mana rocks, and it seemed like everyone else wanted to slow the pace of the game down. But he did manage to cast his Nicol Bolas and flip him into the Planeswalker, which was sweet. Max's Emrakul play was a little bit out of left field, and I really wasn't expecting it from a deck like his. He didn't do a heck of a lot until that point, and it really forced the issue for Chris. Chris's deck was great, and he drew 10 cards off 2 Niv-Mizzet Enter the Battlefield triggers. Unfortunately though, he was put into a really hard position, because had Max been able to resolve the Emrakul the second time and get my next turn, I guarantee he would have been able to find the Aetherflux Reservoir, and then cast it, and then use it to kill Chris, Joel, and myself. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudzda, and lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudzda. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.